Hello guys, so today I want to share some tips on the individual instruction. Alright, so if you go here in the game plan, in the tactics tab, you can find the individual instructions. So we have two attack instruction and two defense instruction. Okay, unlike in previous pass, where we can turn it on and off during the match itself. In eFootball, you can only turn it on and off in the game plan. You cannot turn it on and off during a match, alright? So you have to think about it carefully if you want to turn it on. Alright, so for attack, we have three options here: defensive, offensive, and anchoring. Okay, so you can have two options that you can put it on. So the first one is defensive, alright? So for defensive, it will prevent your players from running forward. If you read that, designated players will refrain from pushing forward in attack. Okay, so in my experience, this defensive is best to be used for your midfielder. Okay, so if you can put it on Kante or Messi here, if you want, oh, no, not that. Okay, so if you want to do a defensive instruction, you can put it on the midfielder here so that they stay back during attack, or you can put it on the fullback. Okay, your center back will not push forward, so they will still they will stay back. So if you want to have extra defenders during your attack, so it'll be a little bit safer, I guess, to defend counter attack, you can put it on the fullback. Okay, so usually pro players likes to play with 3 center back and fullback and put a defensive instruction on him, so they have 4 at the back here to help with the counter attack by the opponent. But you can also put it on the CMF here, alright, kind of like an anchorman. If you do not have an anchorman, if you have like a box to box or orchestrator, like here I'm using, I have Jorginho here, orchestrator. So you have different type of players, not an anchorman. Anchorman will stay behind. So you can do that, put defensive instruction on him so that he stays behind during attack, so that when you get the ball in front and you want to switch the play to the other side, you have a player here so that you can pass it to him, then get the ball to other side, or you want to reset back, all right? When you get in front into the wing, then you want to go back, you have someone at the back here. So if you do not put defensive instruction on the box to box here or orchestrator, they will run forward. All right, so you can only pass it back, way back to the center backs. So try it out, see which you prefer, whether to have a defensive on the CMF or not, especially when you are playing with only one defensive mid here, CMF. But the thing is, if you put the defensive instruction on the DMF, alright, so if you switch to DMF here, this guy will be on the same line as the center back here. So that might be something that you do not want to do, okay? Because you will only have, like here, let me push them a little bit out here, alright? So if you put defensive instruction on the DMF, he'll go back here on this line as similar as the center back. So you will only have 2 lines here, alright? So it's not good in my opinion. Get as many lines as possible. So like here you have 1 line, okay? There's a defensive line, and then you have the like a DMF line. Then you have the center mid line here. So you have 3 for 4 lines, okay? So what this means is it's better for your angles, your passing angles, okay? So let's say if you have it here, so you can only pass horizontally, but if you have here, then you can pass it with an angle, make it harder for the opponents to block your passing lanes, okay? So make sure if you want to put defensive instruction on the DMF, switch it to CMF, okay? Unless you have an anchorman, you do not have to put defensive instruction. It will stay just in this line here. All right, so another thing that you can do is put defensive on the attacking mid or left mid here. All right, so they stay at the back here when the ball goes forward. Let's say if you go into the wing over here and you put defensive instruction on Lampard here, okay, so instead of making the run inside the box, he will stay down here. So kind of like a classic 10, I guess. So you can pass the ball back and then you can do a stunning shot. So that's one thing that you can do. Okay, so I'm playing with roaming flank here. So roaming flank will get into the space in the middle here. Let's say if you do not have defensive on Lampard, right? Lampard will go inside the box here. Then you have a roaming flank here. Okay, so if you put defensive instruction, he will not make the run inside the box. But one advantage for this is you have like two midfielder here. Okay, then you can also use 1-2 pass from deep. All right, so this make it harder for the opponent's defender to mark you because you're doing 1-2 pass here, right? When he makes the run forward, the center back or the full back will be marking Lampard here. So Son will be making the run inside the box, making a little bit of confusion there. All right, whether to mark Lampard or Son. Usually because they are already marking Lampard and Drogba here. So Son Heung-min will do a 1-2 pass maybe with Kante here. Then Kante pass it to Messi. Then Son who's making the run inside. All right, then Messi can pass it to Son. All right, so that's one thing that you can do with a roaming flank defensive instruction. Yeah, you can try it out. Of course, even if you do not put a defensive instruction, it can mix the run inside too. But this is more about making a 1-2 pass from deep in your, basically almost at the center half line. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. Similar to if you put a defensive instruction on the AMF, he will stay behind. So you can do a 1-2 pass from deeper area. But usually it's more about getting into the wing, then pass it back, then you can shoot it. All right, you can do a curler or a stunning shot. Usually I'll do just a stunning shot with the AMF. All right, so the next thing, for defensive instruction on the CF, I do not notice anything different. So yeah, no need to put defensive instruction on the CF. Mostly it's about the midfielder and the fullback. Okay, so usually you'll be putting them on the CMF here if you play with only one pivot. If you play with two pivot, you can put it on both of them to make them stay behind. But usually just put it on one because it'll be a bit more flexible if one of the CMF goes forward. All right, if you play with double pivot. That is it, I guess, for defensive. And then we have offensive. Okay, so for offensive, you can see that the assigned player will position himself higher up the pitch than usual. This cannot be assigned to a forward player. Okay, so this does not have any effect on the CF or the wingers. All right, the forward players. Okay, so what offensive will do is push your player higher. So if you put on the LMF here, RMF here, you push up here, so kind of like a right wing. So what it actually do is push the players to be as the same line as the CF. Okay, so if put at Son Heung-min here, will go here. Okay, so if you put it on Lampard, he'll go here. Okay, so what my suggestion is, do not put it on the midfielder. Okay, unless you play long ball. Because if you put it on the midfielder, let's say if you put it on Lampard here, it'll go here. And maybe if you put it on Messi here, he'll go here. So you do not have any midfielder to pass the ball to. So this is not good for your build-up. So don't do that. Don't put offensive instruction on your midfielder. You want to pass the ball around. Sometimes you want to keep the ball around, maybe not attack, just pass the ball around, right? To keep possession. So you do not want to put offensive instruction on the midfielder unless you play long ball. You want to give a long ball to Drogba here for header to Messi here, maybe get in behind. But usually not the kind of tactics that you want to do unless you are a bit desperate late in the game, trying to look out for a goal. But usually just play with full red to push your players forward, right? So don't do that. So what you can do actually, something that you can think about is putting it on the fullback. Okay, so with fullback, in normal situation without the offensive instruction, they will stay as the same line as the midfielder here, and then make it easy for you to build up your game, right? Okay. When you push the ball up higher, then he will make the run into the wing. Okay, so that might be something that you do not like. Okay, so sometimes you want him to go into the wing quicker, all right, to give a long ball into the wing. So that's something that you can do, put offensive instruction on him. But unfortunately, yeah, we cannot turn it on and off during a match. In my opinion, if we can turn it on and off during a match, offensive is something that I would usually use for a fullback. This is kind of like an attacking fullback instruction in the previous pass, all right? But since we cannot turn it on and off, so sometimes because he makes the run forward too quickly, all right, to be on the same line as CF here, so sometimes it will be a bit risky when you're building up from the back, right? Because you do not have the option to pass here on this right side when he goes into the wing here. So if you want to do offensive instruction, I suggest maybe just put it on just one of your fullback, so that at least you have 3 players for the build up at the back. One other thing that you can do is if you play with 3 at the back, okay? So if you play with 3 at the back, 3 center backs, you can do something like this. You can put the offensive instruction on usually just one if you put it on the middle, on the middle center back here, so that he push forward here, right? Your center back will not push that high, so it kind of like push until the midfield line here, not as other players into the CF line here, so just the CM line here. So you can put offensive instruction on the center back, so you have the angles here, so kind of like being an anchor man. Okay, so if you do not have an anchor man, you can do that. You can put a center back in the middle here. Maybe Van Dijk can be quite good as an anchor man because he have good passing skill, weighted pass, low lofted pass, all right, decent enough speed. So yeah, that's something that you can think about if you do not have a anchor man, or you want to play with 5 at the back or 3 at the back. So you can push one forward here with offensive instruction during attack. During defense here, it will drop down back, okay, to be 3 at the back. Or you can also put it on both of the center back here, because we can only have 2, right? 2 instruction. Put offensive instruction on the side center back here on the left and right, so you have something like this. Okay, so you have the angle to pass the ball. All right. I wouldn't do this if I'm playing 3 at the back though. Yeah. If you lose the ball, then it'll be a bit risky. So maybe if play 5 at the back with a fullback here, then okay, can do that, so that you can at least pass wide here, right? Pass Alisson, then pass wide. But if you do not have the fullback here, play just 3-5-2, then maybe not a good idea to do that. So if you play just 3 at the back, let's just put it on the center back, so that you have something like this. Okay, so that's it for offensive, I guess. Do not put it on the midfielder, so that you have the players for your build-up. Consider it for your fullback or your center backs. For the wide midfielder, I don't think it has much impact. Okay. Yeah, you can try, but yeah, not much impact. For the last one, anchoring. Anchoring is to restrict your player movement. Let's read it quickly. Selected player is restricted from drifting out of position horizontally. For example, your center forward will keep to a central position and your wingers will not venture inside. Alright, so anchoring actually is more about the roaming flank. Okay, so I have Son and Salah here, two of the best roaming flank in the game. So without that anchoring, he will go until here in the middle here. Okay, sometimes he can go over here a little bit. Alright, so with anchoring, he will just go here, kind of like a normal prolific winger in the half space. So if that's something that you like, or something that you do not like about roaming flank, you do not want him to go in the middle here or over here, especially if you play with a lot of midfielder here. If you play like something like this, all right, then the roaming flank will go here, then it's okay, right? But if you play like here, all right, so if the roaming flank go here, it's gonna be a bit compact, I guess, so might not something that you like. So you can put anchoring on the roaming flank. Okay, so that's it for the anchoring, or you can put it on the fullback finisher. One more thing is anchoring is useful if you play out wide tactic. For the other tactic, not so much, but for out wide, because the players will go wider to give some support during build-up. Let's say if you play in the left wing here, okay, so one of your player on the right side will go towards here. So let's say if the ball is with Son, then Lampard go here. If Lampard don't go here, then sometimes Drogba can go here. Alright. So Lampard go here, then Messi will come over here. So if you do not want Messi to go over there, you can put anchoring so that he stay here. Alright. Similarly, if you do not want Drogba to go here, you can put anchoring on him. But usually if you have like an AMF here, AMF will go inside here, and Drogba will stay middle, but this guy will go here. Alright. If you play maybe like a 4-4-2, like here, right, then maybe Drogba will go here, then Lampard will go here. Alright, so you might not want the CF to go out wide, so you can just put anchoring on him. So it's about the out wide tactic. So if you play with out wide, then anchoring is something that you might want to think about. But for others who do not use out wide, yeah, not much use except you are using a roaming flank. Okay, so you can do defensive and offensive, but I usually just use defensive. Offensive, yeah, not much use of it besides the center backs and fullback. Alright, so for defensive instruction, tight marking is the one that you want to go for. Man marking, in my opinion, is useless. Because if you put man marking, let's say, if you put man marking on Kante here to tight, not too tight, to mark the AMF, let's say. So if the AMF making the run in behind your center back will not help. All right, so your center back will not go and stop him because it's already marked by Kante here. So Kante have to chase him. All right, so don't do that. In my opinion, don't do man marking. Yeah, it's not good, not good at all. Unless if you maybe want to try man marking using the center back. All right, if you put man marking for center back to mark the CF. But if the CF move around a lot, so it can make your center back out of position. Okay, so in my opinion, it's not good enough man marking. If you want to mark, use tight marking. So it's kind of similar to man marking, but it will only depends on the positioning of the player. So let's say counter here is CF, right? So if the CF is here, so one of the center back here will go mark him, tight mark him. So it doesn't depend which player, right? So if Matip is closer, then Matip will go tight mark him. If Van Dijk is closer, he will go mark him. So it's not a man mark specific one, right? So that's the better option in my opinion. Use tight marking instead of a man mark. Let's say if the CF go wide, then Mendy will be the player closest to him. So Mendy will go tight mark him. So the center back will not be out of position. So use tight marking. In my opinion, the man marking should be another settings, kind of like in the previous pass. But this one is not good enough with only just 2 options here for man marking. Just use tight marking. Alright, so for counter target, a certain forward stay in the vicinity of the opposition box rather than dropping back to help the defense. It means that this forward do not use up energy running back and forward. Alright, so for counter target is basically it can save the stamina, but in my opinion, the stamina, I do not notice much impact on the game. It maybe affect the stats a little bit, but I'm not sure. But it doesn't impact the game like in previous pass. Where in previous pass, if the player is lethargic and not having stamina, it sometimes takes a bit time to sprint. All right, so he like having an animation, catching his breath. So not much impact in eFootball, but in PES, counter target can be useful. But in eFootball, yeah, you can try for, I mean, in the terms of saving stamina. But the other use for counter target is if you play like, let's say, reset it back here. All right. So you play like 4-5-1 here. But if you put counter target on Salah here, then Salah will stay forward while Drogba will drop back. Because you're playing with 4-5-1, right? So they want to keep the shape of 4-5-1. So if you put counter target on one of your midfielder here, let's say Salah, then Salah will stay forward, Drogba will drop back. So it will be still a 4-5-1. So that's something that you can do to be a bit confusing. Okay. You can also, let's say, if you play with 2 forwards, all right, 2 forwards, and then we put counter target on. I mean, if you do not put counter target, and if you play with blue mentality. With normal mentality, 2 forward will stay forward. If you play with blue mentality, then one of the forward will drop down. So if you put counter target, and then they will not go down. All right, so both will stay forward if you play with blue. But you need to put on both of them, because if you put on just one of them, then the other one will still drop down. Right, if you play with blue mentality. This also if you play like 4-3-3 formation. So if you put if you play blue, then 2 of the CF will drop down. I think 2 or 1. I don't quite remember. I think 1, maybe 1. Yeah, just 1 will drop down. But if you put a counter target, yeah, because you only have 2, so it doesn't matter much. Yeah, but usually it's for the 4-4-2 formation. That way you can still have 2 stay in front while defending with 4-4-4 kind of style. Alright, so that's the counter target, mainly if you play with blue mentality to prevent your play from dropping down. Alright, so the last one is deep line. Okay, so if you read here, the assigned player will drop back to a position that allows him to join the defense with ease. This cannot be assigned to a defensive player. This cannot be assigned to a midfielder player either when playing with 5 at the back. Alright, so the the keyword here is 5 at the back. Okay, so basically what the deep line will do is bring the player with that instruction down into the defensive line here to make it 5 at the back. Okay, so if you already have 5 at the back, then there is no point putting deep line because they will not drop down to make it 5 at the back. So if you play 4 at the back here, then if you put it on Messi here, then Messi will come and drop here, right? Maybe not here, but maybe here, all right? But he will make it 5 at the back, all right? Doesn't matter who you put it on, a CF or a CMF or RMF, it doesn't matter. He will drop down to make it 5 at the back. Okay, so if you put on Kante here, it'll just drop here. All right, so if you put two deep line instruction, because we have two options, right? Let's say if you put it on Son and on Salah here, then they will come and drop down. Not here, maybe in between here, usually in between. All right. Sometimes Salah will drop down, sometimes Son will drop down, right? When the Salah drop down, then Son will stay here. If Son drop down, then Salah will stay forward. It'll always be 5 at the back for deep line instruction. Right, so that's something that you can think about to do. Usually just for a defensive midfielder here, just to make it 5 at the back. But you can try put it on the CF here if you want to be a bit crazy. Like if you play here, right? If you put the CF to have deep line, then you can still have like 5-4-1, right? Okay, but if you put it on the, let's say on the CMF here, then it'll be 5-3-2. So a little bit, there's some subtle difference, 5-3-2, 5-3-2 and 5-4-1. All right, so that's something that you can think about. I think that's it. That is it. There's no instruction that are available. Not many. For my suggestion for the last one, all right, to as a summary, my suggestion is use defensive one. Defensive one is the best, I think, for this instruction. Offensive, not that much, but still useful for the fullback. Defensive is the best one, actually. So you might want to use both defensive, whether on the CM or the fullback. Anchoring is very niche, depending on if you have roaming flank or what is it called? If you play out wide. Defense, tight marking is the best one. Man marking, don't use it. Counter target, maybe. Deep line, maybe. Depending on your formation. Alright, so that's it, I guess. I hope you guys can learn something from this. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.